The station floated in empty space like a giant silver flower. Inside, 47 alien species sat in their chairs, arguing as they always did. The Galactic Council had kept peace for 3,000 years. They talked, they traded, and they never fought wars. War was something primitive species did, not civilized ones. Council Prime Velthros raised his webbed hand for silence. His blue skin glistened under the lights. "We must discuss the human problem again," he said in his deep voice. The council chamber filled with angry sounds. Some aliens clicked, others hummed, and a few made sounds like grinding metal. They all had opinions about Earth. 20 years, shouted Ashrek, his insect body shaking with anger. 20 years since we sent first contact messages. They ignore us like we are nothing. A floating jellyfish-like creature pulsed softly. Perhaps they are simply primitive. Maybe they cannot understand our messages. Or maybe they are arrogant, Ashrek replied. They think they are too good for the council. Velthros was about to speak when every alarm in the station screamed at once. Red lights flashed everywhere. Security officers from a dozen different species jumped to their feet. Something just appeared from faster-than-light travel, a technician shouted, his 3 eyes wide with fear. Right at our doorstep. The main screen flickered to life. Every creature in the chamber became silent. Even Ashrek stopped moving. A ship hung in space before them. But calling it a ship seemed wrong. It was a monster made of metal and weapons. It was twice as large as anything the council had ever built. The hull was dark gray, covered in scorch marks and dents from battles. Weapons stuck out from every surface, like the spines on a dangerous creature. Strange symbols were painted on the side in white and red. "What is that thing?" someone whispered. The communications officer's hands shook as she worked her controls. "Sir, we are receiving a message. It is in perfect council standard language." "Play it," Velthros ordered. A face appeared on the screen. It was human male, with dark hair and cold eyes that seemed to look right through them. His face showed no emotion. He wore a gray and black uniform with strange badges. "I am Commander Taehan of the Korean space naval ship Taegukshi," the human said. His voice was calm, but something in it made Velthros' skin feel cold. "We request immediate audience with the Galactic Council. This is not a negotiation. We will meet within the hour." The screen went black. The council chamber exploded with noise. Species that had been silent for years suddenly had much to say. Some demanded the human ship be destroyed. Others wanted to run. Several species ships that had been docked at the station quietly disconnected and jumped to faster-than-light speed, fleeing into the dark. "He did not ask permission," Ashrek said, his voice shaking. He demanded, "Who do these humans think they are?" Velthros stared at the image of the warship on the screen. The name on the hull was written in Earth's symbols. The ship looked like it had fought through hell itself to reach them. And those weapons, he had studied military history as a hobby. He recognized gun ports when he saw them. That ship had enough weapons to destroy half the station. "We will meet with them," Velthros said quietly. "Are you insane?" Ashrek jumped forward. "They insult us. They ignore us for 20 years, then arrive in a warship and make demands." "Look at that ship, Ashrek," Velthros said, pointing at the screen. "Really look at it. Those are battle scars. That ship has been fighting someone. The question is, who?" The chamber fell silent again as the representatives really looked at the human warship. The burn marks were not from accidents. The dents in the armor were not from asteroids. Someone had shot at that ship many times with powerful weapons. And the ship had survived. A small transport shuttle left the Taegukshi and headed toward the station. Through the windows, Velthros could see more details of the warship. Strange pods hung under the wings. He guessed they were missiles or bombs. Turrets moved slowly, tracking every ship near the station. The whole vessel looked like a predator, waiting and watching. "Prepare the council chamber," Velthros ordered. "Full security. Armed guards at every entrance." "What good will guards do against that?" Someone muttered. VLTH Ross did not answer because he did not know. He simply knew that everything was about to change. The humans had not sent diplomats with gifts and kind words. They had not sent scientists eager to share knowledge. They had sent a warship. A warship that looked like it had already won several battles. The humans were coming. And they were not asking to join the council as children learning from wise elders. They were walking in as equals, or perhaps as something more dangerous than that dot outside the window. The Togukji hung in space like a dark promise. Its weapons remained active, tracking everything that moved. The ship did not hide what it was. It was a machine built for war, crewed by a species the council knew nothing about. Velthros looked at his reflection in the dark screen. His people had evolved in peaceful oceans, learning to cooperate and share. What kind of world, he wondered, created creatures that built something like the Taegukji? He would find out soon enough. The shuttle was almost at the docking bay. The docking bay doors opened with a hiss. Commander Taehyun walked through first, and Velthros felt his confidence shrink. The human was not tall by council standards, but he moved like flowing water, smooth, controlled, dangerous. Behind him came 3 more humans, all wearing the same dark gray armor that looked both flexible and incredibly strong. "Commander Taehyun," Velthros said, stepping forward with his hand extended in the traditional council greeting. "Welcome to We Need to Talk Now." Taehyun did not take the offered hand. His eyes scanned the bay, noting every exit, every guard, every weapon. "In your council chamber, all representatives present." Ashrek pushed forward, his insect body clicking angrily. "You do not give orders here, human. You will follow protocol. You will surrender your weapons and... No." The word came from the female human behind Taehyun. She was shorter, with sharp eyes that looked like she was calculating how to kill everyone in the room. "We stay armed. This is not negotiable. Then you do not enter." Ashrek's wings buzzed. Taehyun finally showed emotion. He smiled, but it was not a warm smile. It was the smile of someone who had just heard a joke only they understood. "Fine. We will return to our ship. In approximately 6 months, you will understand why we came. By then, it will be too late." He turned to leave. "Wait." Velthros held up his hand. Something in the human's eyes told him this was not a bluff. Let them keep their weapons. Just this once. The council chamber felt different with the humans inside. They stood rather than sat, positioned so they could see all entrances. The male human with engineer markings on his uniform, the man, kept looking at the ceiling like he was planning escape routes. The female with linguist symbols, Haiwan, held a data device, but her other hand rested near a weapon on her belt. "Council representatives," Taehyun began without any polite greetings or traditional words. "We received your first contact messages 20 years ago. We decoded them in 3 days. We chose not to respond." The chamber erupted in angry sounds. Taehyun waited for silence with the patience of stone. "We chose not to respond because we detected something else. Something your long-range sensors apparently missed." He nodded to Haiwan, who activated a holographic display. The display showed a map of space far beyond council territory. At the edge, in the dark between galaxies, something moved. The image zoomed in, and Velthros felt his blood run cold. Ships. Thousands of them. Tens of thousands. They looked organic, alive, like massive insects or deep-sea creatures. They moved together in patterns that hurt to watch, like watching a single organism with countless bodies. We call them the Kreeth Swarm, Tehian said. His voice remained flat, emotionless. A hive mind species. They have consumed over 200 worlds in the void reaches. They are heading this direction. Estimated time of arrival to Council Space, 6 months. Impossible, Ashrek said, but his voice lacked its earlier confidence. Our sensors would have detected such a fleet. Your sensors are designed to find ships using technology like yours, Dongmin said. These ships are biological. They absorb radiation. They are almost invisible unless you know what to look for. High One projected more data. We have documented their pattern. They arrive in a system, consume all organic matter, every plant, every animal, every sentient being, and then move on. The planets they leave behind are gray, dead rocks. Why should we believe you? A floating council member spoke in a voice like wind chimes. You ignored us for 20 years. Now you arrive with weapons and fear. Perhaps this is a trick. Tehian's jaw tightened. For 20 years, while you sat here debating trade agreements and cultural exchanges, Earth built a fleet. We studied the Kreeth. We developed weapons. We prepared for war because that is what humans do when we see a threat coming. War, Velthros said softly. Your species chooses war first. No, Tehian replied. We choose survival first. War is just the tool we use when nothing else will work. He looked around the chamber. We came here to warn you and to offer help. We can share our defensive technology. We can teach you our tactics. We can fight together. The chamber was silent. Then Ashrek laughed, a horrible clicking sound. You want us to believe that primitive humans, who just discovered faster than light travel, have better technology than species who have traveled to stars for thousands of years. This is nonsense. Our ship has 300 nuclear-tipped railguns, Lieutenant Eugen said quietly. 40 antimatter torpedo tubes, electromagnetic pulse cannons that can disable a ship from 1,000,000 kilometers away, energy shields that can withstand direct hits from weapons you have not even imagined. Should I continue? Those weapons are forbidden by every civilized code. Someone shouted. We are not civilized by your definition, Tehian said. We are survivors. And in 6 months, you will need survivors more than civilized diplomats. Velthros looked at the data, then at the humans, then at his fellow council members. He saw fear in their eyes. Fear of the Kreeth, but also fear of the humans. These creatures from Earth did not fit into the galaxy's carefully built piece. They were something sharp and dangerous in a soft world. We will consider your offer, Velthros said finally. You have 1 week to decide, Tehian replied. After that, we begin fortifying systems we choose to defend. With or without you. He motioned to his team. They turned and walked out in perfect formation, weapons ready, eyes watchful. After they left, the council chamber erupted in argument. Half wanted to accept human help. The other half called it a manipulation, a power grab by a primitive species trying to gain control through fear. Velthros watched the Tajuki through the window. The warship hung in space, dark and patient. He noticed something he had missed before. The ship's hull was not just scarred from battle. Parts had been repaired with different metal, showing dozens of different fights. That ship had a history written in scars. Why had the humans been fighting for 20 years while the council debated in peace? And what did they know that made them build something so terrible? In 1 week, the council would vote. Velthros suspected they would vote to reject the human offer. Pride and fear would make them choose to believe the humans were lying. He hoped they were wrong. Because if the humans were telling the truth, the galaxy was about to learn what real war looked like. 2 months passed. The Galactic Council voted to reject the human offer. 32 species voted against accepting help. 15 voted for it. The humans, they decided, were either lying or exaggerating to gain power. The Taigiji remained in council space anyway, conducting what they called military drills. Their weapons fired at empty asteroids, destroying them completely. Their fighters flew patterns around the station that made everyone nervous. Velthros had voted to accept the human help. He was one of the 15 who saw something true in Commander Taehyun's cold eyes. But democracy had spoken, and the council chose pride over caution. Then the colony on Bresh 7 went silent. At first, they thought it was a communications failure. Such things happen sometimes. But when the backup systems also stopped broadcasting, the council sent a science ship to investigate. That ship never reported back. 2 days later, another colony went dark. Then another science officer Ji-Hai from the Taiguchi requested an emergency meeting. She arrived with data that made Velthros' skin turn pale blue with fear. Her sensors had detected the Kreeth scout fleet entering the outer rim of council space. 3 colony worlds with a combined population of 4 million. Beings had been consumed in less than a week. The council finally believed. They scrambled their defense fleet 40 ships representing the finest technology from a dozen species. Sleek vessels built for speed and efficiency, armed with energy weapons designed to disable rather than destroy. The council still clung to their civilized ways. Even now, VLTH Ross watched from the station's command center as the fleet approached the 3rd colony world. The humans stood nearby, silent and still. Commander Taehyun's face showed no satisfaction at being proven right. He just watched with those cold, calculating eyes. Fleet has visual contact, the communications officer reported. Her voice shook. The main screen showed the colony world of Resh 9. Above it, in orbit, floated things that should not exist. They looked like massive jellyfish made of dark meat and bone, trailing tentacles kilometers long. Each one was the size of a city. There were hundreds of them, maybe thousands, moving in patterns that hurt to watch. All ships, open fire, the fleet commander ordered. Energy beams lanced out from the council ships, striking the Kreeth vessels. The beams cut into the organic armor, burning holes that smoked and steamed. For a moment, Velthros felt hope. They were hurting the enemy. Then the Kreeth adapted. The next volley of energy beams struck the creatures and simply vanished, absorbed into their flesh. The Kreeth had changed, evolved, learned in the space of seconds. Now the council's most powerful weapons were useless. Switch to kinetic weapons. The fleet commander shouted. The council ships fired metal projectiles. These worked better, tearing chunks from the Kreeth vessels. But there were so many of them, and they were moving now, closing the distance with terrifying speed. Lieutenant Eugene, Taehyun said quietly. Battle analysis. The tactical officer studied the screens with professional detachment. Council fleet is using outdated formations. Ships too close together. Weapons designed to disable, not kill. Against an adaptive enemy, they will fail. Time to total fleet destruction? 14 minutes. Velthros turned to stare at her. 14 minutes? That is our finest fleet. I am sorry, Eugene said, and she actually sounded like she meant it. But it is true. On the screen, the Kreeth swarm surrounded the council ships. Tentacles wrapped around hulls. Organic acid ate through armor. Ships exploded in silence. The fleet tried to retreat, but the Kreeth were faster. They moved like a school of predatory fish, cutting off escape routes, isolating individual vessels, and tearing them apart. 12 minutes had passed. More than half the fleet was gone. Enough, Taehyun said. He touched his communication device. Taiguchi, this is Commander Taehyun. Engage enemy fleet. Authorization code Omega-7-7. Sir, we have no authorization from the Council. came the reply from his ship. I do not need it. Engage now. Velthros should have protested. Should have demanded the humans stand down. But he said nothing as the Tahad-GG moved into battle. The human warship did not approach carefully. It did not try to communicate or warn the enemy. It simply appeared near the battlefield in a flash of faster-than-light exit and started killing. The railguns fired first. No energy beams that could be adapted to just solid metal slugs moving at a fraction of light speed. When they hit the Kreeth vessels, the organic ships exploded. The slugs were tipped with nuclear warheads. Each impact created a small sun that burned everything nearby. Target the big ones first. Eugene's voice came through the command center speakers, calm and professional. Fire antimatter torpedoes, full spread. Torpedoes shrieked through space. When they hit, matter and antimatter met and annihilated each other. The explosions were so bright the screens had to dim. Entire Kreeth vessels simply ceased to exist, converted to pure energy. The Kreeth tried to adapt. They changed their formation, tried to surround the Tahad-GG like they had the council ships. But the human ship was faster, more agile than its size suggested. It spun and fired in all directions at once. Electromagnetic pulses washed over the Kreeth, disrupting their coordination. Then the railguns fired again, punching through disoriented targets. Pilot Seung-ho, Taehyun's voice continued. Deploy Drone Strike Package 7. Small objects shot from the Tahad-GG. At first, Velthros thought they were missiles. Then he realized what he was seeing. They were small ships, each piloted by a single human. They dove at the Kreeth flagship, the largest vessel, easily 5 times the size of the Tahad-GG. Those are manned fighters, Velthros whispered in horror. The pilots will die. They know, Taehyun said simply. The fighters screamed through space, dodging tentacles and acid sprays. Kreeth weapons tore 3 of them apart. But the others reached the flagship. They did not try to escape. Instead, they flew directly into the massive creature's body and detonated dot fusion warheads. 5 of them. They detonated inside the Kreeth flagship simultaneously. The explosion was so massive, pushed the Tahad-GG backward. When the light faded, the flagship was gone. Just debris floating in space, the remaining Kreeth vessels faltered. Whatever coordinated them had died with the flagship. The Tahad-GG hunted down the confused survivors with brutal efficiency. 14 minutes. That was how long Eugene had predicted the Council fleet would last. The Tahad-GG destroyed the entire Kreeth scout fleet in 16 minutes. When the battle ended, the command center was silent. 12 Council ships had survived. 28 had been destroyed. 4 million people on 3 colony worlds were dead. And the humans had won a victory that looked like wholesale slaughter. That was a scout fleet, Taehyun said, breaking the silence. A tiny fraction of what is coming. The main swarm has thousands of ships like that flagship. Maybe tens of thousands. He turned to face the council representatives who had gathered in the command center. His face was still emotionless, but his eyes held something that might have been pity. Now you understand why Earth built weapons like ours. Why we did not waste 20 years learning to say hello in 47 languages. We knew what was coming. We prepared. He paused. The question is, will you let us help you prepare, or will you face the main swarm with energy beams and hope? Velthros looked at his fellow council members. They all wore the same expression: shock, horror, and the dawning realization that their peaceful galaxy had just become a war zone. A war they had no idea how to fight. What do you need from us? Velthros asked quietly. For the first time, Taehyun almost smiled. Everything. The emergency session lasted 6 hours. In the end, the vote was unanimous. The Galactic Council accepted Earth's help. They had no choice. The Kreeth were coming, and civilized weapons built for peace could not stop them. 3 days later, Earth's fleet arrived. 23 warships emerged from faster-than-light travel in formation. Each one bore the name of a human battle written in their strange symbols. The Tagigichi was not even the largest. A massive vessel called the Inshin led the fleet, bristling with even more weapons than the Taguchi. Admiral Jae-sung came aboard the station to meet with the council. He was older than Commander Taehyun, with gray hair and scars on his face that spoke of a violent life. Unlike Taehyun, who showed no emotion, Jae-sung seemed almost friendly, but his eyes were just as cold. "I will be direct," he told the assembled council. "We need to reorganize your entire military structure. Your tactics, your training, your mindset, everything must change. You have 4 months before the main Kreeth swarm arrives." "That is not much time. We have been discussing defensive positions," Ashrek said. He had been quiet since the battle, humbled but not broken. "We can fortify our core worlds, establish a defensive line." "No." Jae-sung's voice was firm, but not harsh. "Defensive lines do not work against the Kreeth. They will overwhelm any fixed position with numbers. We need mobile forces. We need to make them pay for every meter of space they take." "You are suggesting we abandon our colonies?" Velthros asked carefully. "I am suggesting we evacuate the ones we cannot hold and turn the ones we must abandon into traps." Jae-sung activated a display showing council space. Red marks appeared on dozens of worlds. "These colonies are too far from your core worlds to defend effectively. Evacuate them. Then we seed them with orbital mines, automated weapons platforms, and nuclear devices buried underground. When the Kreeth land to consume these worlds, we make them sick. Poisoned meat." The council members looked at each other in horror. One representative from a plant-based species actually fainted. "You want us to destroy our own worlds?" Someone whispered. "I want you to survive," Jae-sung replied. "The Kreeth do not negotiate. They do not take prisoners. They consume. Every ship we destroy costs them resources. Every poisoned world weakens their swarm. This is not a war for territory. It is a war of attrition. We must make them bleed for every victory until they decide the cost is too high." Over the next weeks, the transformation began. Human officers spread throughout the remaining council fleet, teaching new tactics. The elegant formations that looked beautiful were replaced with loose, aggressive patterns designed to maximize firepower and minimize losses. Council ships that had been built for exploration were hastily retrofitted with human weapons. Dong-Min and his engineering teams worked around the clock. Velthros visited one of the retrofit bays and found the human engineer arguing with the council shipwright. "These power conduits are inefficient," Dong-Min said, pointing at a sleek design. "Beautiful, yes. Efficient, no. We need redundant systems. Multiple power routes. If one gets damaged, the ship keeps fighting. But it will look terrible," the shipwright protested. "All those extra cables and backup systems. It ruins the ship's aesthetic." Dong-Min stared at him. "Do you want a pretty ship or a ship that survives when the Kreeth tear into your hull?" The shipwright looked down. "Survival. I want survival. Then we make ugly ships that refuse to die." On one of the station's training decks, combat instructor Nari taught close-quarters fighting. Most council species had never considered that they might need to fight without weapons. Nari, a small human female who moved like liquid fire, was changing that perspective. Again, she shouted as a large reptilian soldier tried to grapple with her. She slipped his grip, struck his knee, and had him on the ground in seconds. "You are bigger and stronger than me. You should win. But I understand leverage. I understand weak points. I understand that in combat, pretty technique means nothing. Only victory matters. Half the class had already quit. The ones who remained were learning slowly that war was not civilized. It was brutal and ugly, and required a willingness to do whatever was necessary to survive. I1 worked with council linguists, but her job was not to improve translations. She was documenting everything, every battle, every strategy, every loss. When council members asked why, she gave a sad smile. Because this will define how the galaxy sees humanity forever. We need a record of what happened and why. When this is over, people will tell stories. I want those stories to be accurate. You think we will survive? A council historian asked. I think we have a chance. That is more than you had a month ago. The evacuation of the outer colonies began. Millions of people fled toward the core worlds. Behind them, human teams planted the seeds of destruction. Mines that would detonate when Kreeth ships approached. Automated turrets powered by fusion reactors that would fire until destroyed. Biological weapons engineered to poison the Kreeth's absorption process. Some council members protested these methods as barbaric. Jae-Jung addressed them in a public broadcast that was shown across all council worlds. You call our weapons barbaric. You call our tactics cruel. Perhaps you are right. He paused, his scarred face filling the screen. But I have seen what the Kreeth do to worlds they consume. I have watched recordings from surveillance satellites. They land on a planet and release spores that spread across entire continents. These spores infect every living thing. Plants, animals, people, everything. Then the spores take control of the nervous system. The infected beings walk to collection points, still conscious, still aware, while the Kreeth consume them alive. It takes hours to die. Hours of agony while your body is dissolved and absorbed. The screen showed recordings. Velthers had to look away. He heard screaming. So yes, Jae-Sung continued, we use cruel weapons. We plant traps. We poison worlds. Because the alternative is to let the Kreeth do what they did to those people. I choose cruelty over extinction. If that makes us monsters, then we are monsters who will save you. The broadcast ended. No one protested the human methods after that. 4 months became 3, then 2. Long-range sensors detected the main Kreeth swarm. It was larger than the humans had predicted. Much larger. Tens of thousands of organic ships moving as one massive organism across space. The fleet gathered at Varus System, the last major defensive position before the Council's core worlds. 23 human warships and 200 Council vessels, retrofitted and rearmed with human weapons. It was not enough. Everyone knew it was not enough, but it was all they had. Admiral Jae-Sung stood on the bridge of the Incheon, watching the sensor displays. Commander Taehyun was beside him, as were Yoojin Dongmin, and the other human officers who had led this desperate preparation. They will be here in 48 hours, Taehyun said quietly. I know. Ji-Sung looked at the fleet displayed on the screens. Council ships painted with new symbols, human symbols of war, mixed with their own cultural marks. A strange combination of two civilizations forced together by necessity. Do you think we can win? Taehyun asked. Jae-Sung was quiet for a long moment. I think we can make them regret coming here. That may have to be enough. Outside the Incheon, the combined fleet waited. The council species who had spent 3,000 years at peace were about to learn what humanity had known since the beginning, that survival sometimes required becoming the thing you feared most. The Kreeth were coming. And humanity, dragging the council with them, was ready to show the swarm what terror really meant. The Kreeth swarm arrived like a plague of darkness. Sensors showed thousands of organic ships, each one a nightmare of flesh and bone and hunger. They filled the space above Varus like a living storm cloud. The combined fleet looked tiny in comparison, 223 ships against what seemed like endless enemies. All ships, battle positions, Admiral Jae-sung commanded. His voice was calm, like he was ordering dinner instead of leading a desperate battle for survival. Council forces, remember your training. Do not bunch together. Keep moving. Make them work for every kill. The Kreeth did not send warnings or demands. They simply attacked. The first wave of organic ships surged forward, tentacles reaching, mouths opening to reveal weapons grown from living tissue. Energy beams and acid projectiles filled the space between the fleets. The Council ships opened fire with their new human weapons. Nuclear-tipped missiles streaked through space. Railgun slugs punched through Kreeth hulls. It was working. The enemy was dying. But for every Kreeth ship destroyed, 3 more took its place. Sector 7 is collapsing. Commander Tae-hyun reported from the Taegukji. Council ships are breaking formation. Velthros watched from his flagship. He had insisted on being here, leading what remained of the Council fleet. He watched his people fight and die against an enemy that seemed infinite. A beautiful science vessel from his own world exploded, its crew of 200 gone in an instant. All ships, fall back to second defensive line, Jae-sung ordered. Execute fighting retreat protocol. The fleet pulled back, still firing. The humans had taught them this: never just run. Always make the enemy pay for the ground they take. Council ships that would have fled now turned to fire one more volley before retreating. It was costing the Kreeth, but not enough. Hours passed. The battle became a blur of explosions and death. Council ships fell in dozens. The human warships fought like cornered predators, their weapons never stopping. The engine alone had destroyed over 100 Kreeth vessels. But even the mighty human warships were taking damage. Admiral, we have identified the Kreeth Hive Nexus, Science Officer Ji-hai reported. Her voice was tight with stress. It is the massive cluster in the center of their formation. That is their coordination center. Can we reach it? Jae-sung asked. Tae-han ran calculations on his display. Negative. There are too many ships between us and the Nexus. We would be destroyed before getting close. The battle continued. More ships died. The Council fleet was down to less than 100 vessels. The human fleet had lost 6 ships, including 2 of their largest. The Kreeth just kept coming, endless and hungry. On the Taejigij Bridge, Commander Tae-hyun stared at the tactical display. Then he looked at Admiral Jae-sung's face on the communication screen. Something passed between them, an understanding that needed no words. Admiral, I have a proposal, Tae-hyun said quietly. Jae-sung listened to the plan. His scarred face showed no surprise, only sadness. It would work. But the cost is acceptable, Tae-hyun finished. We all knew this was a possibility when we left Earth. Better to die with purpose than to watch civilization fall. Let me do it, Jae-sung said. The engine is bigger. More antimatter warheads. The Taejigij is faster. Better chance of reaching the target. You need to coordinate the fleet. I need to do this. Tae-hyun turned to his crew. All personnel except essential navigation, evacuate to escape pods immediately. Lieutenant Yoo-jin stepped forward. Sir, I should stay. You will need tactical support. That is an order, Lieutenant. Evacuate now. Yoo-jin's face showed pain, but she saluted and left. Dong-min gripped Tae-hyun's shoulder briefly before following her. One by one, the crew abandoned ship. Only Tae-hyun remained on the bridge with navigator Hyun-woo. You should go too, Tae-hyun told him. Someone needs to make sure the collision course is perfect, Hyun-woo replied. Already plotting trajectories. I have been navigating this ship for 4 years. I am not leaving her now. Tae-hyun nodded. He would not waste time arguing. All ships, Jae-sung's voice broadcast across the fleet. Cover the Taiguchi. Clear a path to the Nexus. Give them everything you have. The fleet understood. Council ships that had been retreating suddenly charged forward. Human warships unleashed every weapon they possessed. They created a corridor of destruction, cutting through the Kreeth like a blade through flesh. Ships exploded on both sides. A council cruiser rammed a Kreeth vessel, sacrificing itself to clear the path. The Taiguchi accelerated. Every antimatter warhead on the ship had been set to detonate simultaneously. The fusion reactors had been rigged to overload. The ship was a flying bomb with enough explosive power to tear a hole in reality itself. Kreeth ships swarmed toward the Taiguchi. Tentacles grabbed at the hull. Acid weapons burned through armor. But the ship kept moving. Haiyan-Wu adjusted their course with micro-corrections, keeping them on target even as systems failed around them. Hull breaches on all decks, Haiyan-Wu reported calmly. Life support failing. We have about 2 minutes of atmosphere left. Will we make it? Taehan asked. Yes, 30 seconds to impact. Through the cracked view screen, Taehan could see the Hive Nexus. It was massive, easily 10 times the size of his ship. Organic towers and strange structures covered its surface. This was the Kreeth's brain, the intelligence that coordinated the swarm. 20 seconds. The remaining fleet fought with desperate fury. Council species that had never known war threw their ships at the Kreeth with suicidal bravery. They had learned from humans what sacrifice meant. 10 seconds. Taehan thought of Earth, of home, of the green mountains he had known as a child before he joined the fleet. He hoped humanity's sacrifice would be remembered. 5 seconds. It has been an honor. Commander, Haiyan-Wu said. The honor was mine. Navigator. The Taiguchi struck the Hive Nexus at a significant fraction of light speed. For a moment, nothing happened. Then reality itself seemed to scream. The antimatter warheads detonated first, matter and antimatter annihilating each other in perfect conversion of mass to energy. The fusion reactors went critical, adding their power to the explosion. The blast created temperatures hotter than the core of a star. Space itself twisted and tore. The Hive Nexus simply ceased to exist. The explosion expanded outward, consuming Kreeth ships by the hundreds. The shockwave pushed the remaining fleet backward. When the light finally faded, a hole existed in space where the Nexus had been a temporary tear in reality slowly healing itself. The Kreeth swarm faltered. Without the Nexus coordinating them, the ships lost cohesion. They scattered, attacking randomly, confused. The remaining fleet hunted them down over the next week, destroying disorganized groups. The Battle of Varus was over. The Kreeth had been stopped. The cost was terrible. 190 council ships destroyed. 17 human warships gone. Hundreds of thousands dead. And the Taiguchi, the ship that had started everything, was nothing but dispersed atoms. 2 months after the battle, Velthro stood in the rebuilt council chamber. Before him stood Admiral Jae-sung and the surviving human officers. Behind them, representatives from every council species waited. The Galactic Council recognizes Earth as a full member, Velthro said formally. Furthermore, we established the Combined Defense Force with humanity as its military command. We tried peace for 3,000 years. You taught us that peace must be protected by those willing to fight for it. Jae-sung accepted with a simple nod. The Taiguchi is being rebuilt. It will serve as the flagship of the new defense force. A reminder of what sacrifice means. Why that name? Velthros asked quietly, later, when the formal ceremonies were done. Taiguchi. What does it mean? It is the name of our national flag. The flag of Korea, my homeland on Earth. Jae-sung smiled sadly. It means the flag that represents the people. We chose it because that ship, and every human warship, represents something important. We are not conquerors. We are protectors. We did not come to your galaxy to rule. We came to ensure that civilized species could continue being civilized while we do the dirty work of keeping them safe. You think we are soft, Velthro said. It was not a question. I think you are what all species should be, given enough time and peace. But the universe is not always peaceful. Jae-sung looked at the stars through the chamber window. Earth did not send envoys because we knew what you would need. Not diplomats with pretty words. Not scientists with interesting theories. You needed a warship. You needed proof that someone was willing to stand between you and the dark. So we sent the Taeguki. We sent terror to fight terror. Velthros understood then. Humanity had not been ignoring the Council for 20 years. They had been protecting them, preparing for a war the Council did not know was coming. They had made themselves into weapons so that others did not have to. The galaxy will never forget what you did, Velthros said. Good, Jae-sung replied. Fear is a powerful teacher. Fear of what we became. Fear of what we can do. That fear will keep the peace better than any treaty. Because now every species knows that if they threaten the innocent, humanity will come for them. Not with laws or sanctions. With warships. Outside the window, the new Taegukji was under construction. It would be bigger than before, more powerful, more terrible. A monument to sacrifice and a warning to any who would threaten the peace.